Hello and welcome to another episode of Rugby Through the Leagues podcast. This one was recorded alongside our Grassroots episode that came out a couple of weeks ago. This is the offcuts of our international rugby rants. Some of the bits were probably out of date because, as I said, a couple of weeks ago, so disclaimer there, some of the facts and stuff that I was trying to say at the time probably haven't quite happened, but there are still some facts in there of the current state of international rugby.
We obviously went to the Portugal game together. That's how we sort of met. And I highlighted to you afterwards, the Irish players weren't allowed to talk. They weren't allowed to talk to us unless we were pre-authorised Irish media. There was a bit of an arrogance around them, which is not what I know of Irish people and Irish culture and everything like that. But these players are put on a pedestal thinking there's something special. Like, there's enough players out there that could probably take your spot if there was a bigger conveyor belt. You don't have to try and treat people like they're shit on your shoe just because you've got something written in the contract that you're not allowed to talk to people.
I think, Carl, that's a big thing, though. We're talking. You're in a fortunate position that you're talking and dealing with some tier 2 nations, and that's maybe a negative way to talk about them. But we're talking about in Spain and Portugal and those European countries. They want exposure. They're happy to speak to everyone because they need funding. They need everything else like that. But if you look at those England boys, the chances of getting a snippet with one of those players would be hard enough.
The England lads are all right. The England lads are all right. I've met most of them as well. So most of them are all right. They're easy to get hold of. It's the only ones that I've ever come across was the Irish lads. But they also had the same issue with the sevens. So when the sevens went pop and they pulled all the funding, the Irish lads weren't allowed to talk because it was in their contract. They were literally hang-tied because it was written into their contract that they couldn't talk to anyone else or speak out against the IRFU. So the reason why the sevens was actually pulled was because apparently they couldn't raise 250 grand. Everything else was funded. And then they've gone and given 32 contracts to the women's to make sure that they could put a team into the World Cup at the sacrifice of the sevens. And then you've got the same mob running, the lads giving them contracts saying they can't talk to people. I don't give a fuck about whether they're trying to, but it's just human decency. Like, you can, they weren't even allowed to say hello. They were like, you barely got a response out of them. But yeah, like, it was like they're guarded. It's like they're fucking Men in Black or something. Like, I was waiting for somebody to walk over with a pen and zap me because I spoke to one of them. It was like, fucking hell. Can't be you can't treat this game like that. This game is not like that.
It should be more open, because what are you being closed off for? And specifically for the Irish side of rugby, because rugby, even though you would think we're up there constantly in the top 3 ranking teams, Irish rugby doesn't perform well, or say Leinster rugby doesn't perform well on the same day that a Dublin GA match is on, and it's an amateur sport. So there's a complete divide there on what rugby should be in Ireland and where it actually is in the public eye.
You say about probably the fourth, fifth sport in Ireland. Obviously, you've got the GAA, you've got hurling, potentially hurling, potentially football.
No, not after last night's result against Armenia. Definitely not. I'd put it third. Like, there is definitely much more community based when it comes to the GA and the hurling. Than the rugby side of things. But I couldn't believe it. I went to the Leinster-Ulster quarter-final last year, and it was played in the Aviva, and it was on the same day as one of the Dublin GA matches, and they didn't even have the bottom tier of the Aviva full. It was one of the worst attendances I've ever seen, and it really did kind of hammer home where rugby is in respect to where it should be.
Ireland's pretty much class every sport as amateur, don't they? Obviously, hurling, GAA, everything's amateur. But you can't keep putting amateur over the top of everything when you've got players that could or should have would have been international level players. There's only 4 provinces that you can pick from, unless they leave, which then as Darryl told me, who said that players have got to be registered or been part of a club or a country for a certain amount of time before they can go. So you can't even be Irish and go to France if you haven't been part of there for 5 years. Or there's a certain ruling that you can't leave within 2 years, something like that. But basically, these players can't even go and plough their trade elsewhere.
Yeah. And even if they do go ahead and they do go and play that trade elsewhere, they're not then able to represent the international team. And it's like, why are you getting the experience and bettering yourself and then not being able to tog out in the green? It's back arse, if you're asking me, when it comes to the IRFU. And look, they do it to try and keep the best players in the country, and that's why they offer them the contracts, the lucrative contracts, to try and say, right, don't go off to the Frances, we don't want your image kind of going and bettering off the other side of the game. We want to kind of keep it to the URC, and we're trying to keep everything to themselves, and it's just it's shackling the players from their true potential.
Talking of hurling, though, I watched it on BBC Two the other week. I say the other week, it could have been 2 months ago. I think it was the All-Ireland final.
Mate, what a day. What a fucking day that is. What a day that is.
Unbelievable.
Look, I was watching it, and
crazy.
my daughter was watching it as well with me, and she was
Amazing.
like, what on earth is this? And she goes, is this rugby? And I went, no, it's not. And she goes, oh, it kind of looks like. I said, well, it's sort of hockey. It's sort of football. It's sort of rugby.
It's a bit like Quidditch.
Quidditch. Go get it. Yeah, it's an unbelievable day out.
She said, that looks amazing. And I went, yeah. And she went, would you ever play that? And I went, nope.
If you want to have a good 80-minute, like full pace, just constant, like there's probably not a faster game to watch than a game of hurling.
Oh, it's unreal.
It's unbelievable, and the skill involved with the hurls and hitting the slitter over from like 60 yards is absolutely nuts. It's an unbelievable watch, and as you say, as a neutral, you watch it for the first time and you go, "Wow, what is this?" It's
I was literally stood in an Irish pub, because obviously is the All Ireland finals roughly around Paddy's Day as well, or is it just after? There's a
nice.
Yeah, I'm thrown off because it used to be in September, and then they changed it after COVID. So it's definitely earlier on in the year. I think it might be. Well, actually, I'll tell you, it's July. Yeah, it's July when the All-Ireland final is.
So there was games on. I was on Paddy's Day. There's like loads of games on at that weekend, isn't there? And I was working in Ireland at the time, and I stood in a bar, and that was the first time I properly watched it. And I honestly thought somebody put Harry Potter on. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was asking these Irish people. They were like, oh, it's hurling. I'm like, yeah, you've not cleared it up. And then I had to do an install at like a GAA. I was doing telecoms over there, and I did an install at the GAA stadium. They got their own stadiums, everything, like all the poles up, and then they showed me round all the bits, and then you'd go to like random people's houses to do installs, and the kids would just be knocking around with these sticks, like these hockey sticks, and the ball, and I was like, I could barely fucking hit a cricket ball, let alone these things. As you say, they're just sloshing it across the fucking garden, like 60 metres, and you think, how are they doing that? Like, I haven't got the hand-eye coordination to catch a rugby ball most days, let alone try and hit a ball that small with a stick at the end of it. And I've got no hope. But again, another sport that's found a way of being amateur, but the impact that it makes on the local area, and also when everyone gets together for that All-Ireland final, you cannot get a ticket anywhere near Croke Park, can you?
No.
It is packed.
No, not at all.
Like, it's what, 80 to 100,000 roughly, Croke Park?
It's around 85, I believe.
They could sell that twice over and more. Easy. And you think and then obviously we haven't even started touching on Wales yet, have we?
There has got to be a definite change in what is happening in Wales in terms of,
what was the feeling
how they
you got
retain their place. Unreal. They were like, this, it's beyond the joke. That's what they were saying. But you know, but at the same time, they were like, well, something's got to happen. So it's a case of like, you know, do you just crack on? Do you just keep flogging a horse? Do you keep, you know, it isn't working. You know, did it work in Scotland with, you know, how they've gone to effectively 2 teams in Scotland? You know, look at the Scottish team now and look at, you know, ultimately, I think people will say they've underperformed in the last, you know, underachieved. Sorry, they've performed brilliantly, but they've underachieved. They could have, you know, they could have taken some of the Six Nations titles, I think, if they could have got everyone fit and everyone healthy all at the right time. I think those Scottish teams are you know, they play some amazing rugby, and I think the Lions just proved that Finn Russell is a genius. And as much as I hate him in terms of what he does when he puts a Scottish shirt on, and I think I hate him because I think he's so good.
Flip reverse that, mate. If he was playing 10 for England, you'd love him.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, though, isn't it? It's the same. You turn around as an avid English supporter. You know, you look at it and you turn around and go, yeah, it's the same as, you know, going back watching Ronan O'Gara or you know, or
Johnny Sexton.
Johnny Sexton. You just sit there and go, well, I wouldn't mind Johnny Sexton in my team, but look at him. It's kind of like that, and that's not in a bad way. I think it's just one of those things you look at and you go, oh God. But yeah, the Scottish team's underperformed. That Welsh team is, you know. I mean, they keep talking, they're going to have a playoff with Georgia, but they are, you know, let's have a look what happens. Have a look what happens in the next, it's 2025 now, 2027 World Cup. We've got 2 years to go to it and sort of see what happens.
Never happening. Like, I'm fully on board with trying to push tier 2 nations forwards, but Georgia are never going to get the shot. They had their opportunity against Ireland. They also had another opportunity. They're not there. Wales, and obviously everyone's protective of obviously the Six Nations. They bought into it, bought shares, whatever. The best format that we need to create is an opportunity for all of those clubs and nations to be able to play in like a Nations League tournament style. Do away with these autumn internationals. Do away with the shit ones. Actually make them count. It's great to see some of these games. Spain playing England A potentially in via the lid. Phenomenal. Great. But are they going to get the same result as basically what Ireland A did to Georgia and to Portugal? Probably not so much. That wasn't a full-strength Irish side that went to Georgia or to Portugal, and they still did a demolition number on both of them.
But I think that there is a massive gap, though, isn't there? You know, you're talking about.
But how do you close that gap? Because is there a massive stat? Like, is that done at club level? Because Georgia want to become the Black Lions. Obviously, is basically the Georgia national side. They've pulled out of the Europa Super Cup, which starts in a couple of weeks' time, because they want to go and play in a higher league. There's rumours that Georgia are going to go and play in Australia just to get game time. They've created a 3-game tour at the minute where they go to Zebra, Benetton, and I think they play Zebra again, just so they can try and get more competitive games ahead of the Challenge Cup, which they'll probably go out in the first round.
Yeah, but I think that's you know, that's a way that they have to do it, isn't it? Is you know, the way international teams are getting better is by having better club players, and those club players have got exposure, you know. And how do those club players get exposure? They play for clubs, whether it's their club at home in Georgia, or you know, they get an opportunity to perform on the top stage, and then some of the larger clubs can bring them in, sign them, and get them playing, you know. And there's a lot of Georgians playing in France, isn't there, in the D2 and the Pro D2 or whatever it is.
Yeah, and
which is a really good
40.
standard.
And the top 40 as well. So they've got but the thing is, France is leading the way with it. They've got 4 pro divisions out there. So Mario Picardi, who we had on the other as he's the Spain captain, he's now gone to go and play in the French Div 3, right, which is their national one or whatever, right? He's going there as a pro. He's basically as a pro, and they've gone and signed 18 new players at his club with the target to get promoted to D2. You've got players that are playing D2 from Portugal. You've got players elsewhere all playing in France, right? We've got Freddie Burns has just gone over to play in Romania alongside Adam McBurney, who we had on the pod. He's gone and played for the same team. So Freddie Burns has gone over there to play in Romania. there's enough leagues out there, but how's that going to improve the players for these tier 2 nations quick enough without them playing better quality play? Like, you know, Paulo, as a coach, if you play with better, you get better, correct?
Yeah, agreed, yeah.
If, like, obviously, Ireland through sort of a token gesture at Georgia and Portugal, Georgia took it with both hands, didn't get the result they were targeting. Portugal used it as a stepping stone for cash flow rather than using it. And even they come out the other, like even the coach come out, Simon Maddox, in the bit afterwards and said, did we just kid ourselves for the last 12 months thinking Ireland were coming to town? Were we ever ready? Probably not. And that's the coach, right? You've then got the president of the fucking rugby in Portugal turn around and said, oh yeah, we were never really going to take it seriously. It was just a cash flow. It was cash cow. He said we also basically didn't really try for the in the semi-final of the Rugby Europe Championships because it was going to cost us too much to send everyone to Georgia for the final. And he wrote that he put that in a fucking statement. And that's the bloke that's running the national rugby. Like, we want them to move forward, but also you've got clowns running the shit show that can't make a decision out of it. Like, there's either money's got to come in, or we've got to find a way of them being able to play bigger games that don't impact on. Rugby can't keep being run by the top 10 teams for us to see the game that we love grow. It's not going to get any better if you've only got 10 teams that are only there, and then the barbarians that will mash a load of players together that are about to retire.
What you're saying about Portuguese rugby there, Carl, 100%, because we all thought that it wasn't going to be the score that it was that day. We thought that off the couple of results that Portugal has had over the last year, that they would show up and put it to us, and they just feathered away. Like, they got their one try and the crowd went absolutely ballistic. Home fans delighted with that memento to take home and say that they got a try versus Ireland. But there has to be a mentality shift there of, it's like, oh no, we don't just want to celebrate one try. We want to actually try and compete. And that, as you say, they need to change that mentality from being just, and you can understand that they want to get the cash flow and they want to get the, make it a profitable organization and fair dues. That is part of business. But on the grand scale of the global game, they need to put their best foot forward and probably be a bit more professional about it.
I was listening to Talk Sport earlier. You had Simon Jordan ran in on about FIFA. I'm basically saying FIFA have got all of these different, they're not non-for-profit, basically. So obviously rugby's not run that way. So the RFU's it's not down as a non-for-profit, is it? So it's a case of it's still classed as a business. FIFA are classed as a non-for-profit business model, right? They've got 3.9 billion sat in cash. What the fuck does a not-for-profit need 3.9 billion's worth of cash that's supposed to be trying to funnel that into making the game bigger and stronger for everyone to develop? And then we've got the RFU at the other end, or World Rugby, that can't rub 2 shillings together and losing their way with tournaments that are making money and just letting it become a commercial cash cow.
It's completely different. It's a different business model that every nation owns their own rugby. That's the problem, is that, when you look at it is a different business model, and it's how it's put together is completely, different. And, we could sit here and argue and discuss about the finer points of it. And I think, the one thing that we have to sort of be clear on is that, where money ultimately is going to make the game bigger, and where is the only place that we're going to draw money from? All of the nations that, New Zealand already tapped out, South Africa tapped out, Australia, Rugby Union has only just come back into the forefront because of the Lions, but Rugby Union in Australia is the 4th or 5th biggest sport. Rugby Union in England isn't even like the 3rd biggest sport or whatever it is. And, apart from the French, who are absolutely piling money into it, all of those nations are struggling. So, we've got to get a bigger audience, and there's only one real massive audience that is completely left untapped. And, that's the American market, and you see that's why the World Cup's going over there, and we'll see maybe an increase in that. And we're talking about the MLR is getting bigger. Japanese market is getting bigger.
MLR's
but
dead.
That's the thing.
MLR's dead. You've got these, everyone banging on that America's going to save rugby. It can't fucking save itself, let alone save rugby. You've lost 10 clubs since the inauguration of MLR. 10 clubs have gone bust since they've started through different bits, but they've lost 3 clubs alone this summer. That's what? 40, 50 players on each roster. That's 150 players that have now got to go and find professional rugby elsewhere, which we haven't got. There's not enough clubs in England because the RFU won't allow more than their own secret fucking squirrel club of clubs that they want to keep in the Prem. They've sort of opened the doors slightly to the Championship, but it's not financially viable. We've got 4 pro leagues in, obviously in France. You've got the URC, which is, again, colonised by the provinces. Obviously, you've got Irish players that can't, they're not really going to go out and sign a load of random Americans because they don't need them. The only one that's been a recent success at the minute is South American Rugby. They're on about adding another club this summer. So there'll be 4 Argentinian clubs, and they're developing players that are now coming to play in the Prem.
And this is why I love grassroots rugby. Because there's no, don't get me wrong, grassroots rugby, how much politics is involved at a rugby club every Saturday, unreal. And if you ever get the opportunity to sort of be involved in that, you'll see. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but there's, those rugby clubs are struggling to stay open. It's really expensive to run a rugby club. We talk about rugby clubs, grassroots, and, you compare that to a grassroots football club, and it's like, well, grassroots football clubs don't have a clubhouse. They only have to pay a pitch fee on a Sunday, £60 for both teams to fork out to play a game on. It costs us at Gosport, because it's a council pitch, I think it's £90 a game,
and
so we've got to pay the council £90 a game to play on the pitch.
Most football teams are also sponsored by the local pub, which is where they go back to for the clubhouse.
Yeah, so they haven't got gas and electricity costs. They haven't got clubhouse costs. They haven't got all the other stuff that's going on. Because it's a different approach and a different style to it. But we talk about our level 7 rugby, which is a reasonable standard. But that's where there's clubs paying people money at that standard. Level 6, it's like, you're touching on sort of that's how are you affording £100 a game to a player or the whole team? And that's through sponsorship. But that's clever. It's just how you can market it. And local clubs have got to get better at marketing themselves as well, which is why this is really good. So if you are doing watch this and you fancy some of us going to your club, just drop us a message and we'll see what we can do.
Well, that brings another episode of Rugby Through the Leagues podcast to an end. This week, obviously, we went off on a tangent about international rugby and the goods and the bad parts of it. I hope you took away the facts that were spouted and some of the bits that we could hopefully take away and improve the accessibility of nations. Some great arguments from Polly and from Keith as well in the midst of my ranting. Keep tuning in, keep sharing the love, enjoying the new content that we've got, and thanks for being part of it. Thank you and goodbye.